Welcome back. So we're up to part 11, the final part of the narrative of Mary Prince, and we're going to wrap up and I'll tell you what's going on. She's in England and she's technically free when she's in England. No enslaved person can be enslaved in England. But she wanted to go back home to Antigua where her husband was. And in order to go back home, once she physically leaves England, she's no longer free. The only way she could be free was Mr. Woods, her enslaver, gave her freedom. And he was not happy about doing so. So here's his letter responding to the requests, many requests, for him to liberate her. My dear sir, in reply to your note relative to the woman Molly, I beg you will have the kindness to oblige me by assuring His Excellency that I regret exceedingly my inability to comply with his request, which under other circumstances would afford me very great pleasure. There are many and powerful reasons for inducing me to refuse my sanction to her returning here in the way she seems to wish. It would be to reward the worst species of ingratitude and subject myself to insult whenever she came in my way. Her moral character is very bad, as the police records will show, and she would be a very troublesome character should she come here without any restraint. She's not a native of this country, England, and I know no relation she has here. I induced her to take a husband a short time before she left this by providing a comfortable house in my yard for them and prohibiting her from going out after 10 to 12 o'clock, our bedtime, without special leave. This she considered the greatest and indeed the only grievance she ever complained of, and my efforts could not prevent it. In hopes of inducing her to be steady to her husband, who was a free man, I gave him the house to occupy during our absence, but it appears the attachment was too loose to bind her, and he has taken another wife. So on that score, I do her no injury. In England, she made her election and quitted my family. This I had no right to object to, and I should have thought no more of it. But not satisfied to leave quietly, she gave every trouble and annoyance in her power, and endeavored to injure the character of my family by the most vile and infamous falsehoods, which was embodied in a petition to the House of Commons, and would have been presented had not my friends from this island, particularly the Honourable Mr. Byam and Dr. Cool, come forward and disprove what she asserted. It would be beyond the limits of an ordinary letter to detail her baseness, though I will not do so, but though I would do so should His Excellency wish it. But you may judge of her depravity by one circumstance, which came out before Mr. Justice died in a quarrel with another female. Such a thing I could not believe possible. Losing her value as a slave in a pecuniary point of view, I consider of no consequence, for it was our intention, had she conducted herself properly and returned with us, to have given her her freedom. She has taken her freedom, and all I wish is that she would enjoy it without meddling with me. Let me again repeat, if His Excellency wishes it, it will afford me great pleasure to state such particulars of her, and which we will incontestably proved by numbers here, that I am sure will acquit me in his opinion of acting unkind or ungenerous towards her. I'll say nothing of the liability I should incur under the consolidated slave law of dealing with a free person as a slave. My only excuse for entering so much into detail must be that of my anxious wish to stand justified in His Excellency's opinion. I am, my dear sir, yours very truly, John A. Wood. So that's his view of what happened, and the person who's writing and defending Molly, he responds. I'm only going to take out a few points of his response to share with you. But this was this whole respectability politics. He was basically saying that Molly is a loose woman, cheats on her husband, and she's so loose she goes out late at night, and he had to encourage her to get married because she just wants to sleep around. Like enslaved people were not allowed to get married, so all this woo-woo nonsense about respectability is just too much. But let me read his response before I go all in. Her moral character is so bad that she would have proved very troublesome should she come to the colony without any restraint. So here's the writer's response. Any restraint? Are there no restraints, supposing them necessary, short of absolute slavery, to keep troublesome characters in order? But this, I suppose, is the argument to frighten the governor. She is such a termagant, it seems, that if she once gets back to the colony free, she'll not only make it too hot for poor Mr. Wood, but the police and courts of justice will scarce be a match for her. Sir Patrick Ross, no doubt, will take care of how he intercedes farther for so formidable a virago. How can one treat such arguments seriously? So the guy's saying, seriously, she's not that bad. She could go back, wouldn't be a problem. Then there's the point of he induced her, he says, to take a husband a short time before she left Antigua and gave them a comfortable house in his yard. The guy responds, this paragraph merits attention. He induced her to take a husband. If the fact were true, what brutality of mind and manners does it not indicate among these slaveholders? They refuse to legalize the marriages of their slaves, but induce them to form such temporary connections as may suit the owner's convenience, just as they would pair the lower animals. And this man has the effrontery to tell us so? Mary, however, tells a very different story, and her assertions, independently of other proof, is as least as credible as Mr. Wood's. The reader will judge for herself as to the preponderance of internal evidence in the conflicting statements. So he's saying that's a lie, and you should not have the power over another set of human beings to tell them who to be with, that people should have free choice to pick their partner. And this is the sweet part now, more to respectability politics. He alleges that she was before marriage licentious and even depraved in her conduct and unfaithful to her husband afterwards. These are very serious charges for them at that time. But if true, or even partially true, how comes it that a person so correct in his family hours and arrangements as Mr. Wood professes to be, and who expresses so edifying a horror of licentiousness, could reconcile it to his conscience to keep in his bosom, the bosom of his family, so depraved, so troublesome a character like Molly for 13 years, to confide to her for long periods, to charge her with the care of his children and his home? How can he account for not having rid himself with all speed of so disreputable an inmate who values her loss so little in a pecuniary point of view? How can he account for having sold 5 other enslaved people in that period and yet have retained this shocking woman? Nay, even if she have refused to sell her on more than one occasion, when offered her full value, it could not be from ignorance of her character. So yeah, it's just what you're saying is not making sense. If she's this bad person, you would have let her go. You keep on not getting rid of her. So I'm not going to go into the other points, But this respectability politics, it falls apart. And for me, the bigger thing is a person who steals human bodies, a person who steals human labor, cannot be the model for my morality. That person needs moral guidance. So once you start treating your fellow human beings in a demeaning way, you're the immoral person, and you really can't talk about other people until you clean out the gunk in your eyes so you can see better to clean out the speck in their eyes. Thanks for listening. And yeah, this is where we wrap with our beloved ancestor, Mary Molly Prince. Rest in peace. Thanks for listening.